Have you ever felt like you were begging for love? I'm not just talking about romantic relationships. I mean that exhausting, soul-draining feeling of constantly seeking approval, of hoping that someone, anyone, will notice you, value you, give you that little drop of affection you feel you're missing. It's like being stranded in an emotional desert, desperately pleading for a sip of water that never arrives. But here's a truth that might just shake your entire world. The moment you stop begging for love, something powerful awakens within you. And this isn't just an idea I came up with. This was deeply explored by Carl Jung, the brilliant Swiss psychologist who dared to venture into the darkest corners of the human soul. Today, you're about to discover what truly happens when you release that desperate need to be loved from the outside and start uncovering the immense love that already lives within you. This journey, inspired by Jung's revolutionary insights, won't just transform the way you see yourself. It will completely shift how you experience your relationships and the life you're creating every single day. Carl Jung believed that inside each of us exists an entire universe, a vast inner landscape filled with our deepest truths, our fears, our longings, and yes, our purest form of love. But so often, instead of looking within, we turn our gaze outward. We waste our energy chasing after the validation of others, hoping they'll give us what we haven't yet learned to give ourselves. Maybe this sounds familiar. Maybe you felt like if that one person doesn't text you back, you're not good enough. Or if your boss, your friend, or even your own family doesn't acknowledge you, then something inside you must be broken. But Jung would call this the first and greatest mistake. Begging for love outside of yourself is a symptom of disconnection from your inner source, the one that's already overflowing with what you're seeking. Think about this. How many nights have you stayed awake wondering why someone didn't reply to your message? How many times have you poured everything you had into a relationship, your time, your energy, your tears, only to feel completely empty when they didn't reciprocate? It's as if you're offering your soul on a silver platter, silently pleading for someone to accept it. But Jung teaches us something radical. That emptiness you feel, no one else can fill it. That void is actually a message from your unconscious mind, the hidden, primal part of you where your instincts, your dreams, and your truth reside. When you're begging for love, your unconscious isn't being silent. It's screaming at you, "Look at me, I'm here, I matter." But the unconscious doesn't speak in straightforward words. It speaks through symbols, through emotions, through gut feelings you often ignore. Imagine you're with someone who subtly makes you feel small. Outwardly, everything seems fine. They say the right things. They show up. But inside, something feels off. There's a tightness in your chest, a knot in your stomach, a whisper in your mind saying, "This isn't right." That's not your imagination. That's your unconscious trying to wake you up. If you keep begging for love from that person, while ignoring the alarm bells inside you, then you're not just neglecting yourself, you're betraying yourself. And self-betrayal comes at a high cost. You lose your peace, your energy drains away, and piece by piece, your true essence begins to vanish. Let's pause for a moment. Take a deep breath. Think about a relationship, romantic, platonic, or even familial, where you've been begging for love. Really bring it to mind. How does it make you feel? Exhausted? Angry? Invisible? Hold that feeling, because we're going to return to it. Now, Jung had a name for this inner conflict. He called it the shadow. The shadow is the part of yourself that you hide, the part you deny, suppress, and don't want the world to see. Maybe it's your fear of not being good enough. Maybe it's the rage you feel when you're rejected. Begging for love is like feeding your shadow, giving it more control over you. And here's something you need to hear. You're not alone in this. Every single one of us, at some point, has walked this painful path. We've all looked outward for something that can only be found inward. We've all mistaken attention for affection, or silence for rejection. But the deeper truth, the love you seek already lives within you. It always has. And when you begin to recognize that, to really feel it, not just as an idea, but as a living truth in your bones, everything begins to shift. You stop settling. You stop chasing. You begin to attract people and experiences that resonate with your worth because you finally see it yourself. Carl Jung didn't just map the mind. He handed us a mirror, one that, if we're brave enough to look into, reveals not only our wounds, but also our wholeness. And that's what this journey is about. It's not about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you were before you believed you were unworthy of love. When you keep begging for love, for attention, for validation, you slowly drain yourself. It's like you have an emotional gas tank full of precious energy, and instead of using it to fuel your own growth, your dreams, your happiness, you keep pouring it into people who don't even know how to fill it back up. And the worst part? They rarely even try. Carl Jung would say that protecting your energy is not selfish, it's sacred. Your energy is what gets you out of bed each morning. It's the silent force that drives your goals, helps you to love with your whole heart, and gives you the strength to continue even when life gets hard. But if you waste that same energy constantly begging for scraps of attention, for half-hearted affection, for someone to simply notice your worth, then what's left for you? What do you keep for yourself? Imagine for a moment that you are a plant, a beautiful plant, full of potential to grow and bloom. But day after day, no one waters you. You wait and wait, stretching toward the sun, doing your best to stay alive. But with no nourishment, you begin to wilt. You begin to fade. That is exactly what happens to your soul when you live on borrowed love, when you wait for others to give you what you should be giving to yourself. Stopping the act of begging for love is not cold. It's the beginning of self-care. It's choosing to water yourself, to offer yourself the emotional nourishment you've been craving from others. It's the first step toward blossoming. Here's something practical, something you can actually do right now, inspired by Jung's teachings. Get a notebook, open it. Write this question at the top of the page. Where am I begging for love? Be honest, brutally honest. Maybe it's with your partner, the one who never makes time for you, who always seems distracted, distant, unavailable. Maybe it's with your mother, who always finds something to criticize, your hair, your choices, your dreams, but never offers a genuine embrace. Never says, "I'm proud of you." Or maybe it's with yourself. Maybe you've become your own harshest critic, punishing yourself for every flaw, every failure, never feeling like you're enough. Write it all down, every place where your soul is kneeling. And then ask yourself this: what would happen if I stopped begging for this? Don't act on it yet. You don't need to make any big moves. Just reflect. Let the questions sit with you. This exercise is not about changing your life in one day. It's about starting the dialogue with your unconscious mind. It's about listening to that inner voice that has been whispering, "I deserve more." And speaking of letting go, what if I told you that the moment you stop begging for love, the relationships that are not meant for you begin to crumble on their own. It's not magic. It's your subconscious mind finally aligning with your truth. Jung believed that the people we attract are mirrors of our inner world. So, if you are living in a pattern of begging, of feeling unworthy, you will naturally attract people who reflect that energy back to you. People who withhold, people who keep you small, people who make you feel like you have to work for love. But when you shift, when you finally say, "I will no longer beg," something incredible happens. The universe listens. The ones who are not aligned with your higher self start to drift away, and in their place, you begin to meet people who see your worth without explanation, who love you without conditions, who match your frequency without you having to lower yours. Before we go further, I want you to do something simple for yourself and for me. If anything I've said so far is resonating with you, if you feel like these words are landing in your heart, hit the like button right now. And in the comments, I want you to write, "I am ready to stop begging." It might seem like a small step, but it's powerful. Every time you declare your intention out loud, even in a comments section, you give it strength. You plant a seed. And if you know someone, anyone, a friend, a sibling, someone you love, who's caught in the trap of chasing after love that hurts, that doesn't nourish them, share this video with them. Because together, we can break these cycles. We can rewrite the narrative. We can choose love that lifts instead of love that drains. So what happens next? After you let go of that deep, aching need to beg for love, something profound. Your shadow begins to speak to you, that part of you that's been hidden, denied, pushed away. It starts to rise. The fear of rejection, the deep-seated insecurity, the desperate need to be liked. All of it comes into the light. And yes, it's uncomfortable. It can be terrifying to confront the parts of you that you've spent years trying to avoid. But it's also liberating. Because when you stop running from your shadow and start listening to it, you begin to heal. Jung taught that integrating your shadow isn't about destroying it. It's not about becoming perfect. It's about acknowledging that even your darkness is part of who you are. For example, maybe you've been begging for love because you're terrified of being alone. Recognizing that fear, naming it, is the first step toward healing it. You don't have to pretend it's not there. You just have to look it in the eye and say, "I see you," but you don't get to be in charge anymore. That is power. That is self-love. Not the kind that looks pretty on Instagram. The kind that is messy, real, raw, and absolutely life-changing. To stop begging and start loving myself, it sounds simple, doesn't it? But behind those words lies a deep symbolic meaning, something that Carl Jung deeply respected. Symbols held immense power because they accessed parts of our psyche that reason alone could never touch. And in this case, letting go, truly letting go, is one of the most powerful symbolic acts we can perform. When you finally release what is no longer serving you, the world around you starts to shift. Energies move. Relationships that were never truly aligned with your core, with your deepest truth, begin to fall away. You don't need to fight. You don't need to scream, to beg, or to issue ultimatums. Simply by no longer begging, you alter your vibration. You change your entire frequency. Jung spoke of synchronicity, those meaningful coincidences that seem random, but are anything but. They're signs, reflections of alignment. When you're in harmony with your true self, life responds in kind. For instance, imagine you've finally made the decision to stop chasing after that friend who never seems to have time for you. You stop sending that one last message. You stop trying to force a connection that only leaves you empty, and suddenly, someone new enters your life. Perhaps at work, or in a cozy little cafe, and this person sees you, values you, without you having to earn it. That's synchronicity. That's the universe responding to your shift. Not because you pushed harder, but because you let go. When you align with who you are, what you need finds its way to you. But let's be honest, it's not all sunshine and ease. Letting go also means facing the emptiness. There is a void that comes with no longer begging for love, especially if that longing has been a constant companion. At first, that space feels hollow, even painful. But Jung believed that this void isn't something to fear. On the contrary, he saw it as sacred, a space where new, healthy, and authentic growth can occur. Think of pruning a tree. You remove the dead branches not to harm it, but so that the living parts can truly thrive. Let me tell you about Marisol. She's 45 years old, and for most of her life, she begged for the affection of her emotionally distant mother. No matter what she did, she never felt seen. When she finally made the decision to release that need, it was like a small death. She cried. She grieved. It felt like she had lost something. But in truth, she had lost a chain. Over time, that empty space began to fill with genuine friendships, with inner peace, with a love for herself that she had never known before. Let's pause here. If something in this message is speaking directly to your heart, take a moment to write in the comments, "I am releasing what no longer serves me." And if someone came to mind, a cousin stuck in a toxic relationship, a friend desperately seeking approval, share this message with them. Every like, every comment, every share helps this message reach those who need it most. Now imagine this. What if all of us stopped begging for love at the same time? What kind of world could we build? What kind of peace could we feel? Because when you stop begging, it's not just your current relationships that shift. It's also the kind of people you attract. Jung believed that our relationships are mirrors of our inner world. So, if you're constantly begging, pleading, chasing, you're likely to attract people who keep you in that loop. People who take without giving. People who only validate your worth when you're exhausted from trying to prove it. But when you stop, when you finally say, "My love starts with me," everything changes. You begin to draw in those who see your value right away. People who don't need to be convinced, who don't make you prove your worth, who love you for simply being you. Think of begging for love as having a magnet that pulls in chaos, drama-filled relationships, energy-draining people. When you release that magnet, when you stop broadcasting that frequency, the energy shifts. You begin to attract peace, respect, authentic, nurturing love. It's not that the world suddenly transforms. It's you who changes how you relate to it. Jung called this process integration, bringing together all parts of yourself, the light and the shadow, to live from a place of authenticity. And from that place, love stops being something you beg for. It becomes something you give, something you share, something that flows naturally. Take a deep breath. Let's visualize something together. Picture your life with no more begging. How would it feel to wake up every day knowing you are enough, without needing to chase after validation? Keep that image close to your heart, because next, we're going to talk about how to make that life a reality, step by step. But for now, just breathe and trust. You're already on the path to discovering the power of no longer begging. We've walked quite a journey together already. We've explored how begging for love disconnects you from yourself, how your shadow and your unconscious mind are quietly asking you to stop, and how releasing that need can transform your relationships from the inside out. But let's close this part of our journey with something even more powerful: what it means to live from your truth, from your authentic self. Carl Jung left us with a powerful legacy. He taught that real fulfillment doesn't come from what others give you. It comes from integrating who you really are. And when you stop begging for love, you discover something breathtaking. Everything you were chasing has been inside you all along. Picture yourself standing in front of a mirror. For years, maybe that mirror reflected back a distorted version of yourself. Someone desperate for approval. Someone who thought they had to earn love. But when you stop begging, the mirror clears, and you finally see yourself, whole, valuable, worthy of love, just as you are. Jung would say, this is the very heart of individuation. Not becoming perfect, but becoming fully you. Shadows and light, laughter and scars, all of it. And from that place, love no longer needs to be pursued. It becomes a gift you offer. Let's pause once again. Breathe deeply. Ask yourself, what part of me have I been hiding to be loved? Maybe it's your loud, contagious laugh, or that wild dream to start your own business that you're afraid to share. Whatever it is, carry that question with you, because now we'll explore how to bring that hidden part into the light. Jung said, the unconscious is always pushing you toward your truth, but you have to listen, and listening means taking action. So here's something simple you can do today. Make a list of 3 things you truly love about yourself. They don't have to be big. Maybe it's the way you make your friends laugh, or your quiet resilience during tough times. Then, write down 3 things you would do if you weren't afraid of being rejected. Maybe you'd finally say no to someone who drains you. Maybe you'd start that passion project you keep putting off. This exercise is like signing a contract with your inner self. You're telling your unconscious, I see you, I hear you, I will act. And when you start living from that place, love stops being a plea and becomes something that flows naturally in and out of your life. Now let's be clear, not begging doesn't mean you don't need other people. Jung was not a hermit. He believed in connection. But real connection only exists when it's built on authenticity. Imagine Laura, 38 years old. She always thought she had to be the funny one in the group, so her friends would keep her around. But when she stopped begging for that approval, when she allowed herself to show up as she truly was, sometimes serious, sometimes quiet, she discovered something beautiful. Her real friends stayed. Genuine love doesn't require you to twist yourself into a version of someone else. It simply sees you and stays. So how do we live this truth in our everyday lives? Jung gave us tools, one of which is active reflection. The next time you feel that urge to beg for love, when someone leaves your message on read, or when a glance you hoped for never comes, pause and ask yourself, what do I need from myself right now? Maybe it's rest. Maybe it's comfort. Maybe it's a hug you can give yourself. Another powerful tool is setting boundaries. If someone drains you, it's not selfish to protect your energy. It's an act of self-love. Jung believed this was essential for individuation. Let's reflect together. Think of a relationship where you constantly give more than you receive. What would happen if you set a boundary there? You don't need to act right now. Just imagine it. Maybe it's telling your partner, I need you to really hear me. Or telling a friend, I can't always be available. That one small act changes everything. You stop begging. and you begin to build connections rooted in your power. And when you do that, synchronicity returns. Remember, Jung adored this concept. Events that look like coincidences, but are filled with deep meaning. You stop begging your ex to come back, and someone new sees you as you've never been seen before. You say no to a job that was draining your soul, and suddenly, a better opportunity falls into your lap. This isn't cheap magic. It's what happens when you finally live from your truth. The universe, or your unconscious if you prefer, responds. Before we end, I want you to do something. If this message moved you, write in the comments, "I choose my authenticity." And if you know someone who's still begging for love, a sister in a toxic relationship, a friend who sacrifices too much to feel accepted, send this video to them. Each time you do, this message reaches a heart that's ready to wake up. And don't forget, like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. This is more than just a video. This is a community, and you are part of it. So, what really happens when you stop begging for love? You reconnect with yourself. Your shadow stops being your enemy and becomes your guide. Your relationships shed the drama and fill with truth. Your dreams, the ones you buried for fear of rejection, begin to awaken. And above all, you find peace. Not a shallow peace, but a deep calm that comes from knowing, truly knowing, that you are enough just as you are. To sum it up in Jung's words, when you beg for love, you lose your essence. But when you let go, you integrate your shadow, hear your unconscious, and begin to live from your truth. And from that place, love flows in naturally, without having to chase it. So today, I leave you with this. The love you've been looking for is already within you. Stop begging for it out there, and start living it from within. That's the magic I wanted you to discover. Now take a moment. Reflect. What will you release today? What step will you take to stop begging and start loving yourself? Write your answer in the comments. I can't wait to read it. And if this message lit a spark in you, share it. Someone out there needs this nudge. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being part of this transformation. I'll see you in the next video. And remember, change starts with you. The world needs your light. I'll be waiting for you. Sometimes we mistakenly believe that intimacy is just about two bodies meeting, about skin brushing against skin, about desire igniting and burning out. We reduce it to a momentary physical exchange, a fleeting encounter driven by instinct. But when you're standing in front of the right person, when you truly meet someone who sees you beyond the surface, something far deeper unfolds. It's no longer about bodies. It's about energy. It's about something ancient and unexplainable stirring inside you, something you may have forgotten even existed. In that moment, intimacy becomes more than comfort, more than affection. It becomes a mysterious certainty. You don't know how to describe it. You can't point to any one thing, and yet deep within, something tells you. This person didn't arrive by chance. It's as if your soul, silent and patient for so long, suddenly finds its voice, but not through words. Even without speaking, even without exchanging a single sentence, something sacred is communicated. It's a spiritual resonance, a quiet confirmation that you're exactly where you're supposed to be. It feels like the two of you have been walking parallel paths for years, each seeking something undefined, carrying your own wounds, your own questions. And then suddenly, those lines intersect. You meet. And it's not just about sharing a moment of passion. It's about opening an invisible doorway between two inner worlds that recognize one another, nourish one another, and slowly begin to transform. Carl Jung once spoke of an ancient wisdom that awakens within us when we meet someone who touches the essence of who we are. And it's not just a poetic idea, it's a symbolic truth, a visceral experience. It's as if your entire unconscious mind rises to the surface and gently whispers, "There is something here you must live." Not something to analyze or understand logically, but something to feel with your entire being. Something that shakes you, breaks you open, and puts the pieces back in a new order. That's why, with some people, intimacy becomes sacred. It's no longer just about surrendering your body. It's about unveiling your soul with a rawness that is both terrifying and liberating. With the right person, your soul is no longer afraid to be seen. You don't feel the need to hide, to pretend, to filter your truth. You exist in your most honest form, stripped of armor, completely exposed, and yet completely safe. It's as if this connection creates a sacred container, a space where you can let go of every mask, every defense. Not just physically, but emotionally, spiritually, energetically. And that kind of connection doesn't happen every day. In fact, many people go through life without ever experiencing it. Not because they don't want it, but because they settle. They settle for shallow connections, for temporary warmth, for relationships that never touch the core of who they truly are. But when you finally meet someone who awakens your vital energy, something shifts. Your heartbeat changes rhythm, your breath synchronizes with theirs. Your mind, usually filled with noise, suddenly goes quiet. You're not just feeling desire, you're feeling presence. The deep, undeniable presence of being exactly where you're meant to be. And in that moment, even if everything else fades away, you just know. You know that something profoundly spiritual is unfolding, something you can't explain, but you also can't deny. And the truth is, this kind of connection doesn't always arrive in a perfectly wrapped package. Sometimes it arrives like a storm. It brings confusion, fear, vulnerability. Because when someone touches your soul, they also touch your wounds. They stir the parts of you that you've kept hidden, even from yourself. And that can be overwhelming. But even amidst the chaos that intimacy with the right person can awaken, there is clarity, a calm in the center of the storm that whispers, "This is real." Because this connection serves a purpose greater than comfort, greater than romance. You're not here just to enjoy or to suffer. You're here to transform. True intimacy with the right person acts like a mirror, showing you who you really are when no one's watching. It strips away every illusion, every performance, every layer you've built to survive. And sometimes, what it reveals is hard to look at. But if you're brave enough to face it, if you allow yourself to feel it fully, without judgment or escape, then something begins to heal. Because what happens in that moment is not just emotional, it's deeply spiritual. It's an internal reconfiguration. It's as if, in recognizing yourself in the other, your soul begins to remember its original shape, a shape that had been distorted by years of fear, trauma, denial. And no, it's not about the other person saving you. That's the illusion many fall for. It's about the other person helping you remember. Because when you're with the right soul, you don't lose yourself. You find yourself. They don't consume you. They illuminate you. And perhaps the most beautiful thing of all is that this encounter doesn't give you something new. It awakens what was already within you. It activates a truth that had been lying dormant, waiting for the right energy to bring it to life. And here's a truth most people are afraid to accept. Not every intimate connection transforms, but when it does, you feel it. Not just in your skin, but in your breath as it slows down, in your mind as it finally stops fighting, in your soul as it no longer needs to search. Because when you're with that person, your inner world no longer needs to be on guard. You're not protecting anymore. You're allowing. You're surrendering to what is. There's no more need to play roles, to hide your pain, to pretend you've got it all together. With them, intimacy isn't just an act. It's a sacred ritual, a sacred disarming, where you're not breaking apart. You're beginning again. And the most mysterious part? The body knows before the mind does. It recognizes the frequency. It senses the alignment. Maybe that's why, when you're near someone who vibrates with you, you don't need logic. You don't need explanations. It just happens. There exists a language that doesn't rely on words. It's more like a silent agreement, a secret understanding between your deepest memories and the soul of someone else. You didn't plan for it. You didn't wait for it. Yet somehow it finds you. And when it does, the things that once seemed so important, the things you chased or tried to control, start to lose their grip on you. The need to have control fades. The urge to force things to happen vanishes. You begin to see clearly that the soul has never followed a schedule, or obeyed rules, or checked off boxes on a list. It has only ever waited, silently, patiently, for the one moment when it can finally recognize itself in another. And when that moment arrives, something sacred begins. Every intimate experience turns into an act of healing, not because the other person fixes you, but because they offer you the space to truly see yourself. And deep down, isn't that what we're all searching for? To be seen, not through our appearance, not through our needs, but through our soul. To be touched, not by hands that seek to possess, but by eyes that know how to hold space. When that happens, when you feel safe enough to show your truest self, even the parts you usually hide, that's when the transformation begins. Without realizing it, that person becomes a catalyst. They didn't come to complete you. They came to awaken something in you. And you didn't arrive to fill in their gaps either. You came to remember, because everything you needed was already inside of you. You had just forgotten. You had gotten lost in expectations, in fears, in old wounds that never healed. And then, out of nowhere, someone shows up. They don't promise answers. They don't wrap you in guarantees. But their presence alone inspires the right questions. They don't offer you safety, but they ignite the courage in you to stop running. They don't save you, but they walk beside you while you save yourself. And that is true intimacy, a space where two people dare to be real. Not perfect, not whole, just real. In that space, wounds aren't hidden. They're spoken aloud, with tenderness. Silence doesn't feel awkward. It holds you. Bodies aren't used to cover pain. They become bridges between two inner worlds, finally ready to meet. With that person, there's no rush, no pretending, no games to make someone like you. There's truth, there's presence, there's soul. There's something beautifully mysterious that happens when intimacy stops being a distraction and starts becoming a path to expansion. You're no longer consumed by passion out of fear of being abandoned. You don't give yourself away so someone won't leave. You don't seduce so you'll be chosen. You simply exist. And what emerges from that is something no one can fake. It's something you feel deeply, something you honor, something you protect. Because with the right person, the spiritual doesn't have to be imposed. It reveals itself. It doesn't have to be planned. It unfolds naturally. And without even noticing it, you begin to change. The way you look at yourself, the way you live inside your own body, the way you breathe. You feel lighter, more connected, more alive. And then you understand, not every connection is the same. Some people brush up against you and then leave, but there is one, just one, that when they touch you, unlocks the door to your soul. There is a kind of intimacy that can never be forgotten, not because it was flawless, but because it was real, because it reached parts of you that even you had forgotten existed, parts that don't awaken with just anyone, because they are guarded by time, by pain, by all the layers your soul has built to survive. And yet somehow, this person arrives, and without even knowing it, without asking permission, they find their way to the deepest corners of your being. They don't burst in. They enter gently. They see you. They listen. They stay. The spiritual doesn't always come with sparks or lightning. Sometimes it's the stillness that tells you something sacred is happening. A different kind of stillness, one that doesn't numb or distract, but one that holds you. With this person, intimacy doesn't leave you questioning. It brings clarity. You don't feel insecure around them. You feel more like yourself. It's like your shoulders finally relax, like your body, after years of internal battles, can finally rest. You're not trying to prove anything. You're not trying to meet expectations. You're just breathing, feeling, living something that your soul has known long before your mind ever did. In that shared space, something begins to settle, not out there, but inside of you. And you realize that maybe, just maybe, it wasn't a lack of love that hurt you in the past. It was the habit of giving yourself away in places where you were never truly seen, where your presence was tolerated but never cherished, where your soul was invisible behind someone else's desire. But now, faced with this unexpected connection, you begin to understand that true intimacy doesn't demand sacrifice. It doesn't test you. It invites you. And in that invitation, something new begins to rise within you. Not a better version of you, but a truer one. More connected, more whole. That person didn't come to rescue you from yourself. They came to remind you that you never needed rescuing in the first place, that everything you are, with your light, with your wounds, with your doubts, is worthy of love. And then something shifts inside you. Something loosens, like an invisible rope you've been holding tightly for years is finally released. And you breathe fully, maybe for the first time in a long time. This is not about magic. It's about truth. And when truth is experienced in intimacy, it becomes sacred. You might not understand why that connection moves you so deeply. You might even try to fight it, to resist it, to question it, or explain it away. But it's pointless. What the soul recognizes, the mind cannot erase. Deep within, you know this is not ordinary. This is not just another encounter. It is something else, something that quietly shifts the ground beneath your feet. It is a doorway, a possibility, a mirror that reflects not only who you are, but who you could become if you have the courage to follow that thread of profound connection. Real intimacy doesn't end with physical closeness. It lingers. It remains in your body, in your thoughts, in your breath. It nestles into your heart and starts to change you without asking for permission. Suddenly, you see yourself differently. You speak to yourself with a softness that once felt foreign. You begin to move through the world with a new grace, not because you're trying to impress anyone, but because you've stopped needing approval. You've started to experience presence, and that changes everything. With the right person, time no longer makes sense. Seconds stretch into eternity. You feel more in one glance, in one quiet moment, than you ever did in years of trying with someone else. And it's not because the other person is perfect, it's because you are ready. Both of you have arrived at the same crossroad, stripped of expectations, without masks, without fear. And when that happens, it doesn't matter how long it lasts. What matters is what it awakens, what it reveals, what it leaves behind. Not everyone is ready for this level of intimacy. Many sabotage it without even realizing, not because they don't crave it, but because it terrifies them. It exposes them. It demands truth. Because when someone truly sees your soul, you can no longer hide behind your achievements, your well-rehearsed smiles, your polished arguments. You are laid bare. And if you're not prepared to face who you really are, it's easier to look away, to run, than to hold that gaze. That's why some people disappear, just when things are becoming real. It's not rejection, it's fear. Fear of being touched in places no hand has ever reached. Fear of being seen in a way that goes beyond the skin, beyond the stories. But you are not here to repeat old patterns. You are here to break them. You are here to choose differently, to give yourself permission to live something that defies logic, because you're already feeling it in every part of your being. And when you stop guarding yourself from love and start living inside it, your soul begins to vibrate in a completely new frequency, one that no longer fits into transactional relationships or superficial bonds. It resonates only with truth, with what feeds you, with what transforms you. That's when you realize that spirituality isn't a distant concept or some mystical illusion. It's happening right here, right now, between breaths, between pauses, in the silence shared between two people, in the way someone touches you without possession, in the way they listen to you without interruption, in how they look at you when you're doing nothing at all, just being. And those small, quiet moments, when they are real, are worth more than 1,000 promises, because they're not trying to persuade you. They're simply walking with you. And walking with you doesn't mean carrying your weight or fixing your wounds. It means being beside you, knowing that both of you are holding space for something sacred. In that space, you don't need to have all the answers. You don't need to be strong all the time. You can cry without shame. You can laugh without restraint. You can be yourself without apology, without performance. When you experience this kind of intimacy, you begin to understand that the body is no longer a weapon or a lure. It becomes a vessel for something higher, a bridge to spiritual expression. Every touch becomes intentional. Every breath shared holds meaning. Every pause between moments of closeness becomes sacred. It's all speaking to you, not in words, but in recognition. You feel it, not because it makes logical sense, but because your soul remembers it. Maybe you dreamed of it in silence. Maybe you never had the words, but now you're living it. And even as the world outside keeps spinning, you no longer feel the urge to chase it. You stay here. You're not rushing toward the future, nor are you running from the past. You are rooted in this moment, and for the first time, you feel like you truly belong. This is not a coincidence. This is a response to every wound, every release, every lesson that has led you here. This is the moment your soul has been preparing for all along. This kind of connection isn't something you go out searching for. It's something you allow. It arrives quietly, without warning. And when it does, you don't need to fully understand it to recognize its truth. It doesn't demand explanation, nor does it need validation. It simply exists, and somehow your whole being knows it's real. There's no resistance, no internal debate, just a deep, inner knowing that something profound has entered your life. You don't need to analyze it, you just need to allow it. Because what is real does not shout, does not force, does not impose. It stays, it remains, it settles into your life like it was always meant to be there. And you know it, because something inside of you aligns, clicks into place, and suddenly, nothing less than that will ever be enough again. Experiencing something like this changes you in ways you can't always explain. You are not the same person afterward. Something subtle but irreversible shifts within you. It's like discovering a melody that had been quietly playing in the background of your soul for years, unnoticed until now. It's not something you can put into words. It's something you feel, something you live. And once you've tasted this depth, this level of emotional resonance, you can no longer pretend that shallow connections are enough. You become aware of what truly touches your spirit, what elevates you, what awakens you. And from that moment forward, your soul refuses to settle for anything that doesn't move you to your core. Because now you know that not all bonds are created equal, that not all nearness is real intimacy, that some people don't just touch your skin, they touch your past, your fears, your untold stories. They reach into the silent corners of your being and offer a kind of presence that transcends time, pain, and logic. They arrive where you need them the most, often without even knowing the depth of the healing they bring. This kind of intimacy cannot be measured by how often you see each other or how long you've known each other. It's measured by the depth it reaches, by the mark it leaves on your soul, by how deeply it reconnects you with yourself, with that version of you that you may have forgotten, the one you left behind somewhere along the way, buried under responsibilities, under expectations, under the weight of surviving. In their presence, your essence finally feels welcomed home. You no longer feel the need to hide your thoughts. You don't have to bury your uncomfortable emotions. You are free to speak from your center, to hold someone's gaze without lowering your eyes, to breathe without apologizing for taking up space. That's the kind of freedom that transforms, not the freedom to do anything, but the freedom to be, to exist fully, truthfully, without fear of rejection. And when someone offers you that, without asking for anything in return, without pressure, without manipulation, you're standing before something sacred, something that demands reverence, because authenticity is delicate, and when it reveals itself, the least we can do is honor it. It doesn't mean everything will be perfect. Perfection is never the point. What matters is the truth within it, the space to be imperfect together, the ability to weather the sunny days and the storms without retreat. A connection like this doesn't vanish at the first sign of difficulty. It deepens, it strengthens when both people choose to stay, to listen, to speak from the heart rather than the ego. And that, right there, is rare. That is priceless. That is what the soul recognizes as home. Sometimes, in the quiet closeness with the right person, things begin to rise to the surface. Feelings you haven't allowed yourself to feel in years, or maybe ever. Tears you didn't know you had stored inside. Sighs you forgot how to release. There's something about that connection that awakens old memories, some that are yours, some that feel ancient, almost ancestral, and you don't even need to understand them for them to feel heavy. Your body just knows. It knows that in this space, it is safe to let go, safe to collapse for a moment, safe to stop carrying what it has carried for far too long. And that release isn't weakness, it's healing. It's the truest kind of surrender, not one that means defeat, but one that brings liberation. You realize that the most spiritual experience you've ever had was not in a ritual, or in a temple, or in a distant mystical vision. It was in the stillness of being with another human being, skin to skin, soul to soul, breathing in sync with someone who demands nothing from you, but changes everything simply by allowing you to be. And in that shared presence, something sacred happens. Recognition. The deepest recognition that can occur between two souls. You see each other. Not the surface, not the mask, not the roles you've learned to play. You see the essence. And after something like that, after experiencing that depth of intimacy, you can never look at connection the same way again. You don't need proof. You don't need certainty. You simply feel. And in that feeling, you find a peace that no logic can ever offer. A quiet, deep knowing that doesn't scream to be justified. It just is. And something inside you begins to shift. Slowly, silently, without any great effort, you begin to choose differently. Not out of whim, not out of fear, but because you've already tasted what's real. You've touched what's deep, what nourishes you. And once you've been there, you can't go back to less. Your standards are forever changed. It's no longer about finding someone who merely desires you. It's about finding someone who sees you, someone who stays, someone who holds you, listens to you, especially in the moments when you can't find the words to explain what you're feeling. Someone who doesn't run when your spirit starts to rise, when the connection between you begins to touch every part of your life. Because when intimacy is true, when it's sacred, it doesn't try to remake you into someone else. It brings you back to yourself, to who you really are when you're not pretending, to what you feel when you're not hiding, to what you dream when no one is watching. And in that space, your space, so intimate, so sacred, so truly yours, you begin to understand something profound, that love is not a destination. It's a state of being. It's a way of inhabiting life. It's how you breathe each moment with awareness, how you honor your soul and the soul of another, without fear, without masks, without walls. If you've ever experienced this, then you already know. And if you haven't yet, don't worry. Don't rush. These kinds of encounters don't come by force. They don't come early. They come when you're truly ready to hold them. They come when you've healed enough not to seek from emptiness, but from wholeness. When you're no longer giving yourself away in hopes of being chosen, but because you already chose to love yourself first. And from there, everything changes. Everything begins. And if anything you just heard resonated with you, if something stirred in you, if something softened, or lit up, or cracked open, even for a second, then I want to invite you to become part of something greater. Because this space, right here, it's more than just a channel. It's a meeting point for souls, for those who want to go beyond the surface, for those who feel that something deep inside them is ready to awaken. You're here for a reason. So share this message with someone who needs to hear it, with someone who might have forgotten what it means to truly be touched by presence, by truth, by love. Leave your thoughts in the comments. Tell me what part moved you. What did you feel? What did you remember? Because your words might just be the mirror that another soul needs to recognize itself. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now's the time. Be part of this community, this living, breathing space where every message is a bridge to a more conscious life, a more real life, a life that is truly yours. Hit the bell icon so you don't miss what's coming next, because this is just the beginning. Together, with every voice, with every story shared, we can touch more hearts, we can awaken more souls, and we can remind each other of a truth we've always known deep down, that the spiritual isn't somewhere in the sky or someday in the future. It's here, now, in how we choose to love, to look, to hold, and to live, moment by moment, with truth. Thank you for being here. When was the last time you looked at yourself in the mirror and asked, am I truly living the life I want? Not the life that others expect from me, not the one that seems right in the eyes of society, but the one that genuinely resonates with my soul. Carl Jung, one of the most profound thinkers in modern psychology, left us with a lesson that few dare to follow: the importance of choosing yourself, even when everything around you seems to push you in the opposite direction. We live in a world meticulously designed to distract you, to keep you trapped in routines, expectations, and an endless stream of obligations that seem unavoidable. From the moment you wake up, you are bombarded with external demands: work, family, responsibilities, social norms, all dictating how you should behave, what you should strive for, and even what success should look like. But here's a truth that many refuse to acknowledge. Every time you prioritize others over yourself, you are sending a silent message to your inner self that it does not matter, that its needs, desires, and truths are secondary. You are ignoring that quiet voice from deep within your subconscious, the one that persistently tries to guide you toward a more authentic and fulfilling life. Jung believed that our connection with the unconscious is not something optional. It is an essential part of who we are. Yet so many people silence it, push it aside, and choose to ignore its signals, because facing it can be uncomfortable. That feeling of unease you experience when something in your life doesn't feel right, that is not random. That is your soul speaking to you, trying to show you that something needs to change, even if the mere thought of change terrifies you. Now take a moment and reflect. How many of the decisions you've made recently came from a place of true authenticity? And how many were driven by fear? Fear of disappointing others, fear of stepping outside the norm, fear of discomfort, or fear of breaking away from what is familiar? Jung urges us to deeply contemplate this because he understood a universal truth. Decisions that are not rooted in your inner truth create nothing but chaos and disconnection. The further you stray from yourself, the more lost you will feel. But let's clarify something important. Choosing yourself does not mean rejecting others. This is not about living in selfishness or disregarding the people around you. It is about recognizing that, in order to give the best version of yourself to the world, you must first be at peace with yourself. This is the fundamental principle of self-love, a concept Jung explored in depth. Self-love is not a luxury. It is not an excuse to escape responsibilities. It is the foundation upon which all meaningful and authentic relationships are built. When you choose to prioritize yourself, something profound shifts in your energy. You begin to attract people and situations that are aligned with your true essence. It's as if the universe responds to your decision to live in truth, eliminating what no longer serves you and bringing forth what you truly need to grow. But to reach this state, you must first confront your shadows, the parts of yourself that you have ignored, suppressed, or feared. Jung described the shadow as the hidden aspect of our psyche, the one that contains everything we would rather not acknowledge about ourselves. And while facing your shadow can be uncomfortable, it is within this confrontation that true transformation begins. Because when you integrate your shadows, when you stop fighting against them and learn to accept them, you unlock an inner power you never imagined you had. This process of integration does not happen overnight. It requires courage, patience, and an unwavering commitment to understanding yourself. But what you gain in return is invaluable. Clarity, the ability to see beyond the illusions you once believed in. Purpose, a renewed sense of direction and meaning in your life. Inner peace, a calm so profound that no external chaos can shake it. You gain the ability to say no to what does not align with you, without guilt, without fear, and without worrying about the judgment of others. But most importantly, you gain the freedom to be who you truly are. You might be wondering, how do I begin this journey? The answer is far simpler than you think. Start by listening to yourself. Every time you feel discomfort, uncertainty, or a surge of emotion, pause and ask yourself, what is my unconscious trying to tell me? Because, as Jung once said, the answers you seek externally are already within you. You just need the courage to listen and the determination to act accordingly. One of the hardest things we do in life is listen to our intuition, especially when it leads us down a path that challenges everything we've built. Maybe it's a relationship you know is no longer working. Maybe it's a job that drains you but feels impossible to leave. Maybe it's a dream you've been chasing simply because it seemed like the right thing to do. Jung reminds us that ignoring these signals is not a sign of strength. It is a denial of our true essence. To choose yourself is to have the courage to let go of what no longer resonates with you. And that is not always easy. We cling to the familiar because change is terrifying. We convince ourselves that better the devil you know than the one you don't. But Jung challenges us to see change not as an ending, but as a doorway, a passage to a more authentic version of ourselves. So think about this. What are you holding on to that no longer serves you? What relationships, beliefs, or habits are you maintaining out of fear? You may feel that letting go of certain people or situations would be a loss, but the real loss happens when you sacrifice your inner peace just to hold on to something that no longer has meaning. The choice is always yours. And perhaps the most important question you can ask yourself right now is, am I ready to truly choose myself? Choosing yourself is not an act of selfishness. It is an act of profound love and deep respect for who you truly are. For too long, society has conditioned us to believe that prioritizing ourselves is wrong, that putting our needs first is somehow a betrayal of the people around us. But the reality is quite the opposite. When you finally make the conscious decision to choose yourself, something truly magical begins to unfold. It's as if a fog that had been clouding your vision starts to lift, and for the first time in a long time, you see things with clarity. The people who genuinely support you remain by your side, while those who only drained your energy, those who never truly valued you, start to fade away. And this is no coincidence. It is the direct reflection of an internal transformation, an alignment between your inner world and your external reality. Carl Jung called this synchronicity, the mysterious yet undeniable connection between your thoughts, emotions, and the circumstances that unfold in your life. When you begin to live in alignment with your truth, your external world shifts to mirror that transformation. It is as if the universe responds to your authenticity by reshaping your environment to match it. However, this process requires something that many people find difficult: radical honesty with yourself. Choosing yourself is not just about making bold decisions or setting firm boundaries. Sometimes it also means acknowledging uncomfortable truths about your past. Perhaps you have made choices that were not a true reflection of who you really are. Maybe you have allowed people to overstep your boundaries, sacrificing your own well-being to please them. You might have said yes to things you knew you should have rejected out of fear of disappointing others. But here's the important part. This is not a reason to judge yourself. Instead, it is an opportunity, an invitation to learn, to recalibrate, and to make a different choice moving forward. Jung believed that authenticity is not a destination. It is a continuous journey. It is a process of learning, evolving, and growing into the truest version of yourself. And on this path, you will face resistance. There will be moments when you doubt yourself, when old habits call you back, tempting you to return to familiar patterns simply because they feel comfortable. But remember this: true growth never happens within your comfort zone. The most profound transformations occur when you dare to step beyond the familiar, into the unknown. The world will not always understand your decision to choose yourself. There will be people who criticize you, who question your choices, who even distance themselves from you because you no longer fit their expectations. And yes, this can be painful, because when you choose yourself, you stop seeking external validation. You begin to realize that your worth is not defined by what others think of you, but rather by what you believe about yourself. This does not mean that you must isolate yourself or disconnect from those around you. Quite the contrary. When you choose yourself, your relationships evolve in ways you never imagined. You no longer chase approval. You seek genuine connection. You no longer settle for shallow interactions. You crave relationships that nourish your soul. And in this process, you discover something beautiful. The right people will always be there, not because they need you, but because they value you exactly as you are. As you begin to live from a place of authenticity, the world around you transforms. This is not magic, nor is it some kind of trick. It is the powerful interplay between your inner and outer worlds. Jung often spoke about how our psyche projects our inner state onto the external world. If you live in internal conflict, you will attract external conflict. If you reject yourself, you will encounter rejection in various forms. But if you choose yourself, if you fully accept and embrace who you are, you will begin to see how the people and circumstances around you also start to shift. This transformation does not happen overnight. It is a process, and like any process, it requires patience and commitment. There will be days when you feel like you are taking steps backward, moments when your old tendencies try to resurface. But this is where the real test lies: your ability to stay firm in your decision to choose yourself, even when it feels uncomfortable, even when it feels lonely. The world glorifies sacrifice. But at what cost? Not everyone will support your choice to prioritize yourself. We live in a world that glorifies sacrifice, where giving everything to others, even at the expense of our own well-being, is seen as noble. But what happens when we pour from an empty cup? What happens when we give so much that we lose ourselves in the process? Choosing yourself is not selfish. It is necessary, because only when you are whole, when you are aligned with your truth, can you truly give to others from a place of abundance rather than depletion. So dare to choose yourself, not just once, but every day, not just in the big moments, but in the smallest of decisions, and watch as your life begins to transform in ways you never imagined. But Carl Jung taught us something profoundly important. We cannot give what we do not possess. If you sacrifice your happiness, your energy, or your inner peace in an attempt to please others, then what you are offering is not authentic. And sooner or later, that imbalance will manifest itself in your life, whether through emotional exhaustion, dissatisfaction, or even a sense of emptiness. Take a moment to reflect on your current relationships. How many of them inspire you, uplift you, and bring you peace? And how many leave you feeling drained, confused, or emotionally depleted? Jung invites us to ponder this because our relationships are not merely social connections. They are mirrors that reflect our internal state. The people we choose to keep close are reflections of the beliefs, values, and emotional patterns that reside within us. If you find yourself allowing someone to repeatedly cross your boundaries, it is not necessarily because they are bad, but rather because a part of you has not yet learned how to protect itself. Setting boundaries is not an act of selfishness. It is an act of self-love. Jung believed that the unconscious mind is constantly working to guide us toward our well-being, but more often than not, we ignore its signals. That sense of exhaustion you feel after interacting with certain individuals is not a coincidence. It is your unconscious telling you that the relationship is not in alignment with your true essence. And if you continue to ignore these signals, the price you will always pay is your inner peace. Choosing yourself means setting boundaries, not as walls that shut people out, but as bridges that lead to healthier and more authentic relationships. When you say no to what does not serve you, you are simultaneously saying yes to your truth, your dreams, and your well-being. This does not mean that you should sever ties with everyone, but rather that you must be honest with yourself about which relationships nourish you and which ones drain you. As you begin to live from this place of authenticity, something extraordinary happens. Your intuition strengthens. That inner voice, which once seemed faint or uncertain, starts guiding you with greater clarity. You begin making choices that not only make logical sense, but also feel right deep within your soul. This is the power of choosing yourself. It reconnects you with your intuition, with that inner compass that has always been there, waiting for you to trust it. Jung described intuition as one of the purest forms of connection with the unconscious. It is that inexplicable knowing, that feeling in your gut when something either feels right or does not. But to truly hear it, you must silence the noise of the outside world. This means letting go of the need for approval, detaching from societal expectations, and learning to trust yourself. Because at the end of the day, no one else can truly know what is best for you. When you decide to choose yourself, you are sending a powerful message to the universe. I am ready to live in alignment with my truth. And the universe responds. Suddenly, you begin to attract people, opportunities, and experiences that resonate with who you truly are. This does not mean that life will be free of challenges, but those challenges will no longer feel like an endless struggle. Instead, they will become stepping stones, opportunities for growth, transformation, and self-discovery. By choosing to live in authenticity, you also begin to experience something Jung described as synchronicity. These seemingly random, yet perfectly timed events that unfold in your life are not mere coincidences. They are a direct reflection of your inner alignment. When you are in harmony with yourself, the external world starts aligning with you as well. Doors open effortlessly, the right people come into your life at the right moment, and everything begins to flow in ways that once seemed impossible. This is the beauty of embracing your true self. When you honor your inner world, the external world responds in kind. And in that space of deep alignment, you will find not only a greater sense of fulfillment, but also a profound sense of peace, the kind that comes from knowing you are exactly where you are meant to be. When you choose yourself and decide to honor your truth, the universe seems to conspire in your favor. The right opportunities arrive effortlessly, the right people appear at the perfect moment, and everything begins to flow in a way that once seemed impossible. It is as if the entire fabric of existence shifts to align with your newfound sense of purpose. Suddenly, what once felt out of reach is now within your grasp. But this does not mean that the path will be free of obstacles. In fact, some of the greatest challenges arise precisely when you decide to choose yourself. It is as if the world, so accustomed to the version of you that aimed to please everyone else, suddenly resists your transformation and tries to test your commitment. You might feel the weight of external expectations pushing against you, trying to pull you back into old patterns. The doubts will come, the fears will surface, and the temptation to return to what is familiar will be strong. This is where your true power lies. Every time you reaffirm your decision, every time you prioritize your inner peace over external demands, you are strengthening the connection with your true self. The key is to remain steadfast, even when uncertainty creeps in. It is completely natural to feel fear when leaving behind the known, even if you are aware that it no longer serves you. But remember this: every time you choose to stay in a place that no longer brings you joy, you are closing the door to something that could profoundly transform you. The great psychologist Carl Jung taught us that change does not occur without resistance, but that resistance is not a sign that you are making a mistake. Rather, it is proof that you are moving forward. It is the friction between the old and the new, the tension between who you were and who you are becoming. One of the most powerful ways to overcome this resistance is through deep self-reflection. Ask yourself, what do I truly value? What is most important to me? What kind of life do I want to build? When you gain clarity about your values and goals, it becomes significantly easier to make decisions that align with them. And as you do, you begin to attract people and circumstances that resonate with the same energy. The world around you shifts in response to your inner alignment. It is also crucial to remember that you are not alone on this journey. While choosing yourself may feel like a solitary act at first, in reality, you are forging a path that will naturally draw the right people toward you, those who will support, celebrate, and walk alongside you. These individuals will not require you to change in order to fit into their lives. They will embrace you exactly as you are, because they too have chosen to live in alignment with their truth. When you reach this point, something inside you changes forever. Life no longer feels like an endless struggle. The decisions that once seemed overwhelming now come with clarity and confidence. And most importantly, you discover a sense of peace that is no longer dependent on external circumstances. Because, as Jung taught us, true peace can only come from within. That inner peace is the natural result of honoring your needs, respecting your boundaries, and living in full alignment with your values. But it is more than just a personal gift. It is something you can share with the world. When you live authentically, you inspire others to do the same. Your courage becomes a beacon of light for those who are still searching for their own path. And in this process, you do not merely transform your own life. You create a ripple effect that profoundly impacts those around you. Take a moment to imagine what your life could be like if you let go of everything that no longer serves you. How would you feel if you release the relationships that drain your energy, the commitments that do not resonate with your soul, and the expectations that you never truly wanted to fulfill? Picture the freedom, the lightness, and the clarity you could experience. This is not an unattainable dream. It is a real possibility, fully within your reach. All it requires is the willingness to choose yourself. When you make this choice, you begin to see that you are not losing anything by letting go of what no longer aligns with you. On the contrary, you are making space for what truly matters. You are crafting a life that not only makes sense, but also fills you with purpose and joy. And that, in itself, is a transformation worth embracing. This is the gift that Carl Jung wanted all of us to discover, the profound realization that true transformation begins the moment we stop searching outside of ourselves for something that has always been within. It is the moment we choose to live from a place of authenticity, embracing who we truly are, rather than who we were conditioned to be. And when this happens, something extraordinary unfolds. You begin to feel truly alive. No longer are you trapped by the expectations of others, nor do you feel bound by the rigid demands of a society that constantly tells you who you should be, how you should behave, and what defines success. Instead, you start tuning in to that inner voice, the one that has always been there, whispering to you, urging you to look deeper, to recognize that something greater awaits if only you have the courage to pursue it. This feeling of liberation is priceless. It is as if a heavy weight has been lifted from your shoulders, allowing you to breathe fully, deeply, freely, perhaps for the first time in a very long while. However, attaining this freedom requires great courage. It demands that you confront not only the external pressures that have shaped your life, but also the internal fears, doubts, and limiting beliefs that have held you back. Jung reminded us that our greatest enemy is not something outside of us, it is within. It is that persistent inner voice that whispers, "What if I'm not good enough? What if I fail? What if I disappoint others?" But here lies the truth, the secret that so many never realize. That voice is not your truth. It is merely an echo of past experiences, a reflection of conditioning that you have absorbed over the course of your life. Every time you choose to confront it, every time you act in spite of the fear, you are dismantling those limiting beliefs piece by piece, clearing space for something new to emerge. This is the true power of choosing yourself. When you make this choice, you break free from the invisible chains that have kept you bound. As you walk further down this path, something remarkable begins to happen. The things that once seemed so important, the endless chase for validation, the need to prove your worth, the compulsion to please others, begin to lose their grip on you. You no longer feel the urge to compete, to compare, or to conform. Instead, you discover a profound sense of fulfillment in simply being yourself. And it is in this state of authenticity that you uncover your true power. This power has nothing to do with control over others, nor is it about dominance or force. It is a power that comes from deep connection with your inner being, that part of you that has always known who you are and what you need. It is a silent, unwavering force, yet it is unstoppable. Because when you are aligned with yourself, when you stand in your truth, nothing and no one can take you off your path. The beauty of this process is that it does not only transform your life, it transforms the lives of those around you. When you choose yourself, you become a living example of what it means to be authentic. You inspire others, not by preaching, not by convincing, but simply by being. Your presence alone encourages others to question their own beliefs, to challenge their own fears, and to step into their own truth. This is something Carl Jung understood deeply. He knew that individual transformation has a ripple effect, that every time a person chooses authenticity, they contribute to a collective shift in consciousness. Because when we live from our true selves, our relationships change, our communities change, even the world itself begins to change. But do not be mistaken. This journey is not linear. There will be days when you feel strong, empowered, and completely in tune with yourself. And then there will be days when doubt creeps in, when uncertainty clouds your vision, when you question everything. These moments of doubt are not signs of failure. They are an integral part of the process. Jung saw them as opportunities to deepen your connection with yourself, to reflect, to learn, and to grow. Each challenge, each setback is an invitation to shed the old, to step into something greater, to move closer to your true essence. And in those moments, when the path feels uncertain, it is essential to remember this. You are not alone. Although the journey toward authenticity may seem solitary at first, you will inevitably find people, experiences, and resources that support you along the way. The more you embrace who you truly are, the more aligned you become with those who resonate with your energy. And when that happens, the journey no longer feels like a struggle. It becomes a homecoming, perhaps a book, a conversation, or even a video like this one that reaches you at the exact moment you need it most. These are not mere coincidences. They are signs, signals from the universe that confirm you are on the right path. Every moment, every decision, every challenge you have overcome has led you here, to this very instant. And though the future may seem uncertain, there is one undeniable truth. As long as you continue to choose yourself, you will be building a life that is truly worth living. The greatest gift you can give yourself is to be unapologetically you, not the version of yourself that others expect, nor the one you have created just to fit in, but your purest essence, the real you that exists when no one else is watching. Carl Jung once revealed that the true work of life does not lie in searching outside of ourselves, but in unraveling the deep mysteries that reside within. And when you finally make the conscious choice to embrace yourself, you come to a profound realization. Everything you are searching for has always been within you. This is a call to action. Life is far too short to remain trapped in the need for external validation, to ignore your own desires, to silence your dreams in order to meet the expectations of others. The time to take the first step is now. The time to confront your fears, to acknowledge your shadows, and to listen to the quiet whispers of your intuition is today. The moment to reconnect with your true self is right in front of you. Because when you choose yourself, you do more than transform your own life. You also change the world around you. Your energy shifts, your perspective expands, and your very presence begins to inspire those who cross your path. And now, what comes next? This is the moment to reflect on everything you have just heard. Ask yourself, which aspects of my life are truly aligned with my authentic self? What can I let go of in order to live with greater authenticity? What is holding me back from embracing the person I was always meant to be? Remember, every small step matters. Every single choice you make in favor of your true self is a victory. And most importantly, you are not alone on this journey. This space, this community, this channel exists to remind you of your infinite potential and to guide you along your path of self-discovery. If this message has resonated with you, don't let it stop here. Extend its impact beyond yourself. Share this video with someone who might need it. Someone who is searching for answers. Someone who is facing their own challenges. Someone who might need this exact moment of clarity. Every interaction matters. Every comment, every like, every share helps this message reach more people. People who, just like you, are searching for a deeper connection with their true selves. Imagine the impact we can create together. A community of individuals committed to living from a place of authenticity, courage, and self-acceptance. Now, I want to hear from you. Let me know in the comments, what part of this message spoke to your heart? What steps are you willing to take today to choose yourself, to honor your true essence? Every word you share matters, not just to me, but to everyone who is on this same journey, seeking their own truth, their own clarity. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell so you never miss another message like this. Together, we can bring this reflection to every corner, to every person who needs to be reminded that the greatest power of all lies in the simple yet profound act of choosing to be who you truly are. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. But above all, thank you for being part of this movement, this awakening, this shared journey towards self-discovery. Never forget, you are not alone. Change begins with you. And the world desperately needs more people with the courage to embrace their authentic selves. I'll see you in the next video. And always remember, life truly begins the moment you decide to choose yourself.